let's transition to talking about the Bible. How we can learn to see the bigger picture in the Bible. And I want to actually turn to Luke from our leadership lessons from Luke 10:38. I'm going to read this. I like this passage, right? As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all of the preparations that had to be made. Sound familiar? Especially in ministry, we can get caught up in having to do the run sheet, having to prepare the volunteers, having to prepare a message, there's lots of things we can do to get busier. Now, I know that you as a pastor have preached this message before, but I'm speaking to you as well. You too can get caught up in the busyness of ministry. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me." Martha, Martha. Now, actually, I've got to confess, whenever I hear this passage preached, all what I hear is, "Martha, Martha, Martha," from the Brady Bunch. But anyway, I digress. That's all I hear whenever I hear this verse. Martha, Martha, Martha. The Lord answered, because I kind of feel like it was almost said in that tone. You are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Jesus is talking about, let's be focused on the bigger picture. Let's not get caught up in the busyness of the everyday things. Like we've shared today, there's so many different little things that we can get caught up in, and little distracting things. But when we're focused on the bigger picture, that in that moment of spending time with God. Now, as I know, you've preached this verse and heard it preached plenty of times before. We know that Jesus, the meal needed to be prepared. People wouldn't have eaten if not, and things need to be cleaned up and everything like that. But Dr. Rod, let's keep a sight of the bigger picture. What is important?
Are you asking me what is important?
No, I'm saying,
or are you just asking me to agree with you?
Keeping a sight of what is important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the lessons I draw from this is that what is important depends. So right at that time, although it was actually important to prepare everything that needed to be prepared to offer hospitality to a friend, Jesus was a friend of Mary and Martha. So he was not just someone sort of breezing through. He was an intimate friend with them. But and it was important, of course, in that culture. Hospitality was everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that Martha is not actually condemned for doing what she's doing, because what she was doing was a good thing. She's remonstrated with by Jesus because she just got her priorities wrong at that time.
Yep.
At that time, Mary had her priorities right.
Mm-hmm.
Mary was at the feet of Jesus, and some versions say like receiving teaching from him.
Yeah.
And I think it was a fairly gentle rebuke that Jesus gave, of course, to Martha, that Mary had chosen the better part or the better thing to be doing at that time. So what is best actually is dependent upon the circumstances. There's not really a hierarchy that says preparation for hospitality is more important than listening to your guest.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's more important to listen to your guest. Sometimes it's more important to withdraw from the guest and work on your preparations so that you can provide the very best of hospitality as a sign of your love and affection for that person. But we need to keep in mind at all times the big picture, And then we need to ask ourselves, well, what is the right thing to focus on in the context of the big picture, but also in the context of what is happening right now?
Yeah, that's good. And obviously there's kind of two messages in here. Is obviously us as leaders, we need to make sure that we are still spending time with Jesus, right? We need, like you've mentioned this a number of times, Dr. Rod, today, about wisdom and seeking the Lord and on the right decisions. We need to spend time with the Lord. We need to pursue our purpose. We need to get the work done. We can't just all sit around and have kumbaya moments. We do have to get the work done. We're called as leaders to lead. So we need to lead. We need to be leading from the front. But we also do need to be taking time out, spending time with the Lord. But also, let's keep sight of what is important. Another thing that I think that is a really good important thing let's look at Jesus, from Jesus' perspective as the leader, it's quite often our responsibility as leaders to ensure the people we're leading, our followers, know what their priorities are. Quite often, our followers can get caught up. The people we're leading can get caught up in the wrong things. And I think it's really important for us as leaders to continually remind our team of what the bigger picture is, casting vision of the ultimate purpose, so that they don't get caught up into the politics of what's happening in the organization, or the gossip, or maybe we as leaders made a wrong decision and they get caught up in those things rather than keeping sight on the bigger picture. So let me encourage you as leaders, make sure that we keep sight of the bigger picture and know what's important in that moment. As Dr. Rod said, know what is right in that moment. But also, let's make sure that we are reminding our followers of what the bigger picture is at all times, because it's important. They can get caught up in the doing and lose sight. We see it in ministries all the time, that volunteers just get caught up in volunteering and forget to be able to spend time in worship. We see it in organizations that staff get caught up working hard and driving towards a project and burning themselves out, rather than looking at the bigger picture of knowing what the organization's driving for, and that they need to be, their health needs to be there in the long run and their performance needs to be there in the long run. So we as leaders, what we can learn from this story in Luke, as far as leadership from both Jesus and from Mary and Martha, is let's keep sight of the bigger picture. Hey, you've just watched an excerpt from the On the Cube Leadership podcast. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if this has challenged, encouraged, or made you think about your leadership in a new way, we'd love to hear about it in the comments below. And hey, if you'd like to watch the full episode, check out the playlist on the screen. And please, it would be an honor if you would consider subscribing to the channel.